Good afternoon, Reverend David. How are you?
Good afternoon, Reverend Joe. Good afternoon, everybody.
Oh, end of primary school today.
No, I saw it this morning. Yeah, I was rather amazed because you put that thing about you arranged the funeral.
I know, completely. And that's because, A, I can't use a diary anymore after 4 months. And B, because I was convinced it was all, I just didn't think the end of the day, you see. I just, 12:15, didn't feel like. No, it's my fault, entirely my fault, completely screwed up.
But I hope your son isn't going to be psychologically scarred by the fact that you weren't at his last day.
Well, as no doubt he already knew at the age of 4, that's just part of the course in this house.
True, that's very true for vicarage children. That's very, very true. Yeah, it's a sad day. For lots of parents. I saw some parents bringing things home with them today earlier in Beaminster. That was good, and but a great adventure, of course, awaits him in a few months' time.
Wow, him and his cohort, definitely.
Yeah, and I was hearing at the school governors meeting for the senior school yesterday how prepared they are. I've read all the documents and all the things, and the teachers outlining everything that's being put in place to make them safe, and how they're going to slide in on various days at the beginning of the new term, etc., etc. Yeah. So they're all prepared and ready, and the teachers will come back with extra zeal in their plimsoll or whatever they need to keep discipline.
Zeal in their plimsoll. Yeah, well, it's been an end of an era for us, so that's all 3 children through primary school. So
no, it happens. It happens.
I know. I'll be leaving home any time.
Yeah, and if you encourage them, I'm sure they'll go now.
Well, possibly.
Yeah, well, encourage them. I did admire yesterday the sneaky hand when we were having our chapter meeting of the biscuit in front.
I know.
That looked very good,
wasn't it? I don't often get hand-delivered warm chocolate chip cookies, but that was yesterday's treat.
Very, very nice. I think he needs a high praise for that.
He's very good. He's even brought me coffee earlier in the week. He brought me a coffee.
No, I mean making them. I mean, it looked.
Oh, making them. No, he did very well. It's been our lockdown recipe, actually. Yeah, been really good. In fact, I'll link to it in the.
Yeah, it looked superb. So if you want a recipe, dear viewer, for a chocolate chip cookie made by Reverend Neary's 13-year-old son, yeah, it looked rather good. The only thing is it couldn't be shared with all of us.
No.
We had to suffer watching it being eaten whilst we had to look on.
Well, there we are. There's probably etiquette about not eating in a meeting, but there we are.
Well, we had another person tell me yesterday how much they enjoy Rev Chap.
Oh, really? Another fan?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Mr. Larkman, who lives by the church in Beaminster, who has royal connections, you know.
I know.
I think he may sneakily send it to Her Majesty to watch.
That just makes me laugh.
Yeah, which is why we've never been. Which is why neither you or I have been chosen to be a Queen's chaplain yet. so there we are.
I'm waiting for my red piping.
Yeah, well, I'm working towards that now for you.
Well, because I was working towards you being canonised.
That's right.
Not sainted, but canonised. And so I'm going to get. You're working towards that, are you? Thank you.
I'll work towards it. Red piping, yeah. I'll work towards it. Yeah, you've got to know how to say the Lord's Prayer in King James version, I think.
I'm beginning to see a flaw in your plan.
Are you?
You know, I'm not very good with BCP and the like.
Oh, you see. Not as bad as your predecessor, though.
Oh, okay.
Who didn't like it at all. She just didn't like it.
I don't mind it, but there's just a lot of words to trip you up.
Yeah, particularly when you've got a lisp like I have, because you end up, and particularly it's not a safe service to take in these COVID days because
there's a lot of
T's and H's.
Yeah.
That's good. And you can't really wear a mask throughout the whole service because they wouldn't hear you.
Propitiation has quite a lot of, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
Propitiation of our sins. Well, it'd be interesting because now we're having masks in shops. I'm wondering whether it will be mandated masks in church soon.
I've been asked that question today.
Have you? Yes. What did you say?
I said, at this moment, the legislation doesn't say it has to be. And I think we've got a mitigating circumstance. That is, they're all facing forward. So they're spitting at the back of each other's heads, not into their faces.
Well, I guess it's us, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
us
no, that's the thing. I think we need a big shield in front of us.
Yes, I'd like a Perspex shield.
Yeah. I can buy you a Perspex mask.
Well, no, but they're no good because you can all get out from underneath. There we are. All these things that you never knew you're going to have to consider.
No, exactly. One-way systems.
I have heard that some priests are having their masks made in liturgical colours to match their stoles.
Yeah, some people are stupid as well, but However, one-way systems, sanitising gel, posters in church saying keep your distance.
Marks on the floor.
Marks on the floor, yeah.
Off pews, it's all... Well, I mean, it's a good thing. I don't have a problem with any of it because, you know, it's keeping people safe, and that is a very, very good thing.
Yellow and black danger tape.
We've got red and white in Baldwin.
Yeah, red and black. Okay. We've even got, provided by Beaminster Town Council, thank you, Town Council, we've even got now at the foot of our steps one of those little triangle things they put around all the lampposts to say, keep your distance, Beaminster is open. And the man yesterday asked me if I'd like one put at the foot of the church steps. I mean, he put one.
How very nice. And I hear there's bunting in the square.
And watch out, Beaminster viewers. There's going to be a town council. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it yet, but I'll say it. A town council scarecrow competition to get people around all the shops. And they've asked if we can have if the church can put one in the churchyard of a vicar scarecrow. So the public can decide if it has long hair or short hair, which one of us it is.
Well, there we are. Which one of us is going to look better stuffed with straw?
I did say to the lady, Katie, good, thank you, Katie, that we more than, because she said, do you want a scarecrow supplied or can you manage your own? I said, we'll have great fun in stuffing it with straw.
We have form, actually, because Broadwindsor After School Club have won the scarecrow competition multiple times with Jesus-themed scarecrows. So we've had...
Don't need to Jesus involved. Don't need to involve Jesus, just you or me, that's all. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, moving on, shall we move on to Jesus instead of scarecrows and us?
Well, it's about seeds and scattering again, or wheat and chaff, so yeah, carry on. Let's have a pause, shall we?
Pause, yes. Right, Matthew 13, continuing in the same chapter from last week with a similarly agricultural themed parable. And the same bit that we've got a missing chunk in the middle. So we're missing out the parable of the mustard seed and the yeast, which are good parables, actually. I'd quite like to do those. I quite fancy making bread in church. But we're having the parable of the wheat and the weeds. Would you like it read, sir? Off I go. Matthew 13, 24 to 30, and then 36 to 43. Jesus put before them another parable. The kingdom of heaven may be compared to someone who sowed good seed in his field. But while everybody was asleep, an enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and then went away. So when the plants came up and bore grain, then the weeds appeared as well. And the slaves of the householder came and said to him, Master, did you not sow good seed in your field? Where then did these weeds come from? He answered, an enemy has done this. The slave said to him, then do you want us to go and gather them? But he replied, no, for in gathering the weeds, you would uproot the wheat along with them. Let both of them grow together until the harvest. And at harvest time, I will tell the reapers, collect the weeds first and bind them in bundles to be burned, but gather the wheat into my barn. Then he left the crowds and went into the house, and the disciples approached him, saying, explain to us the parable of the weeds of the field. He answered, The one who sows the good seed is the Son of Man, the field is the world, and the good seed are the children of the kingdom. The weeds are the children of the evil one, and the enemy who sowed them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the age, and the reapers are angels. Just as the weeds are collected and burned up with fire, so will it be at the end of the age. The Son of Man will send his angels, and they will collect out of his kingdom all causes of sin and all evildoers, and they will throw them into the furnace of fire, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then the righteous will shine like the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Let anyone with ears listen. Ears of wheat, or just ears. So what do you think about that then?
Oh, sorry, I was listening.
You're listening, okay.
I've got ears, you see. Yes, you said earlier, it's another agricultural story. I don't know why they miss out the other two parables. I like the mustard seed one myself. I think that's lovely. But they do, and we're not being asked to talk about that. I do find it amusing that in Matthew's Gospel, once or twice it refers to weeping and gnashing of teeth. That's rather a frightening experience, isn't it?
Although actually, I think as priests we get quite a more than our fair share of weeping and gnashing of teeth when people don't agree with us.
I've never known or experienced that particular thing. People not agreeing with us.
Oh dear! But yes, weeping and gnashing of teeth.
Mm.
I mean, it's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Well, it's quite brutal. You know, the judgment of the Lord is not a fluffy thing. You know, it's pretty brutal. It's basically, if you're evil, off you go, and if you're good, you're all right.
So Jesus is comparing the kingdom of heaven, though, with someone who sows good seed in the field. It's always taken a bit of thinking about how you compare heaven as we understand heaven to be, some distant place that awaits our arrival in some long time, or what most people often think about. But what Jesus is saying, actually, this heavenly place is here now. You know, and you've got to live a good life within it. And it's not just about attaining or trying to attain some kind of new life by being good, because you're actually here now. You should be good all the time, because that's what it's about. And then we all know, don't we, that for everyone who does good, there's probably equally someone who's going to do the opposite, which is what it suggests at the bottom. Because while he was asleep, having worked very hard to sow his field, along comes somebody else and sows weed seeds. Probably saying that with a mouthful of crisps. Weed seeds in amongst it all. And that's a perennial problem for a lot of farmers today, particularly those who are organic. Because, of course, the organic farmer won't drive his tractor up and down the lanes of seeds, spraying weed killer to kill them off. And has to wait until all comes up and it's all taken together. Then they have to try and separate them in some way. And I think Jesus talks into so much of what our life is about today, doesn't he? When we stop to think about it. And this is one of the stories. Having spent a lot of time, certainly in my time before I came down to Dorset, working with farmers and agricultural people, I heard all kinds of these stories. And these are some of the parables and stories that they really could engage with and understood them far perhaps better than we do. You know, the idea of something happening and someone deliberately working against them or something not being right. And I think it's a great story.
Yeah, and I'm always astounded by how, and perhaps I shouldn't be surprised, but how relevant stories that were told 2,000 years ago still are to the common experience of humanity. And I think you can see, we were talking before we came to record, we were talking about some low-level rubbish that's been going on with some teenagers in Beaminster, and there's been problems in Broad Windsor with people not shutting gates and cows ending up in the wrong place and things like that. And they're just minor examples of deliberate stupidity that leads to bad consequences. And they exist, those acts of stupidity exist right up against all the good stuff that happens every day in the world, doesn't it? And that's just tiny examples of day by day, but there's big, huge worldwide examples as well. You know, for every generous, get generous furlough scheme that has saved people's jobs, there's also, you know, decision making. There are factories in Leicester that are exploiting their workforce, and there's, you know, this good and evil just exists all the time together. And sometimes people shy away from evil, as in they think that's too harsh a word, and they shy away from the idea of there being a judgment at the end, because that makes people feel uncomfortable. And whether we take it literally that, you know, evil people are going to end up in a fiery furnace, or whether we just see it as a metaphorical idea that God will reckon us all together and sort us out. I mean, actually, for me, it gives me huge hope, because it speaks to me of Jesus and God understanding 100% that good and evil exist all the time, rubbing up shoulders together with each other. And that's just kind of how the world works. But in the end times, in the times that we hope will come, it will all get sorted out. And I know that might be scant comfort if you're in the middle of something that's hard. But for me, it's definitely something of hope that it will all come good in the end.
Well, I think that's certainly the end of the first part of that parable you read in our book's view before we turn the page. And because, yeah, the servant, I'm not sure that's a good word to use anymore.
No, slave.
But the slave, sorry, yeah, the slave.
But that's what they had at the time, yeah. So.
The slave suggests that you go and picks all the weeds out. And the farmer says, oh, leave them there because you'll damage the good. And I think I've often thought about that from Jesus being an assurity that leave the two together because good will always overcome evil in the end. And we'll always defeat it in some way. And then we'll gather the things together. And I guess in society, it's so easy because we look at a punishment type of basis, don't we? If somebody does wrong, we'll punish them. And according to what crime they've done, we'll punish them accordingly. And sometimes if it's minor stuff, like you said, about the children running amok in the playground or ripping all the heads off the flowers yesterday, it's only a minority and a very, very small minority of stupid acts. And surely the way to deal with it sometimes has to be that you allow the goodness to work alongside that, to put it right and to show people that that's, you know, the way to go, not to be judgmental and punishing if you can help it. Although it's all too easy for any of us to be judgmental at times. I know that. Yeah.
No, it's
on. But yeah, this idea of throwing people into the fiery furnace, that's very Old Testament, isn't it? Very Daniel.
Yes, but he came out of that looking all right, not toasted.
He did.
Yeah, but I think we shouldn't be scared of God's judgment.
No.
She says, 100% sure that it's going to be all right. But that's what the Bible teaches us, isn't it? If we are people of faith and we're endeavouring to follow Jesus and we are living as, I think we're described in here as children of the kingdom, and we don't have anything to fear.
No, absolutely. And the word endeavouring is an interesting word that you use, because that means, in effect, trying, I think, perhaps a bit more than trying. And people think that you've got to be perfect to get salvation. Actually, Jesus doesn't say that. I think he does say that you have to try and do your very best, and we'll deal with it accordingly later.
I guess the problem with this parable potentially is it links salvation to good works.
It does.
Being good, and we know clearly that salvation is all through faith, but that our good works come out of that faith that we have, and that judgment is about faith, not about how good we've been. So which is probably why I can have confidence. Because if it was just on how good I'd been, then I think I'd be struggling.
A lot of early debates, though, in the foundation of the church about whether works or faith, it caused a split almost in certain churches. I don't think Calvin would have agreed, would he?
Well, possibly not, but that's okay.
Yeah,
I'm 100% sure of salvation through faith.
That's okay. So am I. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Based on as opposed to purely on works.
Yes, as based on works. But that's why it's important to hear the stories. I mean, that to me is what comes down to mission, because if we believe that eternal life is, and being members of the kingdom of God comes through faith, comes through believing in Jesus as the Son of God, then we need to help people understand that Jesus is the Son of God and to follow him and to find that freedom now, not just wait for it for some other time, because actually that's the gift, is that this freedom, this eternal life starts here and now.
And that I think is key, and it's certainly key to a lot of debates in the church at the moment, isn't it? How do we help people to know Jesus afresh or new? You know, because we often say, don't we, we're X generations away from the last regular church attender in somebody's family, and that means they haven't had the teaching other than what they've gained through schools. And I think that the children, certainly in our area, with the exception maybe of Toller and Hook, where the children go to different schools, primary schools, I think the children get an outstanding input from the church for them, but in a way that's not judgmental or forcing, but allows them to think and to work out for themselves. And we've seen some good responses of people who said, well, it's interesting, I'd like to know a bit more about that, you know, and see if it does make a difference to my life, as you keep on saying. And the key to that is that all of us as Christians live out that life that we understand as called by Jesus, so people can see it in a way that is attractive. And all the arguing that we often see, and you know, and the criticising from church life just puts people off, and I don't blame them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Jesus will solve the problem. We've said this so many times, haven't we? Jesus is the answer, so to speak. And
it all comes down to Jesus. In fact, that's how I could sum up Rev Chat, is a bit of banter, and then it's all come down to Jesus, basically.
Absolutely. But for those who turn off after the banter, we may reverse it next week. So you've got to listen to the chat and the deep theological input that is applied to this, particularly Our Majesty. Mom, good. Hope you're here watching this afternoon.
Chance to be a fine thing. There we are. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
It's good to see you. You can join us. You know the spiel. On our social media at Beaminster Team, on our website, beaminsterteamchurches.org. We've got, what's he doing? We've got, thank you, wash your hands for more than 20 seconds. And we've got a summer project happening online. We can't do our normal summer outreach, but we can do summer outreach in a bag, a bit like Lent in a bag a few years ago. This is summer outreach in a bag. And all you need to do is go to our website, look for summer fun, and click on there, and there's a form to fill in, and we'd love to deliver you some exciting goodies to get your summer off to a grand start and to do some things with your family during
We'll send the curate round on her bike.
We will, yes, with a delivery.
Yeah, we'll send the curate round with her bike. She'll love that.
We'll see you all next week. Take care. God bless.
Thank
Bye.
You. Bye now.